Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Martinez here. I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom. And in this episode, we are going to talk about the KPIs that you should be using for your customer experience team. Now, you might be thinking, why do I even need a customer experience team? Well, if you want to maximize your client retention and not lose customers like ever, then I would highly recommend that you look at building a customer experience team. For me personally, when we invested in building out our customer experience team, immediately we saw results. We saw that our customers were happier, they stayed longer, we made more money as a company, we increased our lifetime customer value. So for us, it's been a fantastic investment in building out our customer experience team. So if you're having challenges with customer churn and clients canceling, if you want to figure out how to get your clients to stay longer, and if you want to build a very successful business that's very, very profitable, then I highly recommend that you listen to this episode where I talk about customer experience, how to build out your customer experience team, and specifically the KPIs that you should be looking at to gauge whether or not that team is successful. And as usual, go to the website and you'll be able to see all the show notes and any of the links that I mentioned. And of course, if you have not already subscribed, please subscribe to my podcast. I'll give you a hug the next time I see you. All right, let's head over to the full episode. All right, welcome back. We are going to talk about customer experience and specifically the KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators. Hopefully you guys already know that. But the KPIs that you should be looking at in relation to your customer experience team. These KPIs will ultimately determine whether your customer experience team is doing what they should be doing. And obviously it'll help you to gauge the return on investment and make sure that it's, a worthwhile investment for you to have. And just to give you some backstory, we've always been really good at getting customers. I think our value proposition and just what we offer and our competitive advantage, because we're located in North America and we can talk in real time and everybody speaks English. That it makes it a no-brainer for our agency clients to sign up with us. What has been a challenge in the past is that even though we were growing like crazy and bringing on new customers, those customers weren't staying for as long as we felt like they should be staying. And that was on us, whether it be not evaluating our clients and knowing who was going to be a good fit and turning away the people that we knew just were not going to be successful with us, or not having the team in place to manage client expectations and really focus on what it's going to take to get that churn number down. So ultimately, I learned about building out a customer experience team and what they're responsible for. And so I promoted our customer satisfaction person that I had in my agency, moved them over to Dude full-time and said, hey, I need you to help us get this churn number down. And if I remember correctly, that year we were doing about 800,000 in revenue, but our client churn monthly percentage was right around 16%. So industry standard for us, it's right around 10%, I would say, maybe a little bit over 10%. 16% was high by anybody's standards. And so I moved Erin over to the Dude team and just had her really focus on getting that number down. And within a month, she got it down from 16% down to 10%, which is a massive improvement. It dramatically increased our customer lifetime value. And obviously the clients were happier. So they were having a better experience. What happens also a few months down the road, if you can maintain those that churn percentage, is that your clients are going to start referring you a whole lot, which is great. So obviously referrals are great. It's not the only way that you want, or the only thing that you want to rely on from a marketing standpoint, but we love when our happy clients are sending us other happy clients that are just like them. So it makes life a lot easier. So ultimately, Erin kept building and getting that churn number down. Now she's got a whole team and they're fantastic. And our churn, I think last month it was right around 2%. And I think this month it's going to be right around 4%. So dramatically better than what it was 18 months ago. And so for me, it's been an absolute game changer. Now, you might not have a customer experience team yet. Doesn't mean that you can't start thinking about it now and basically planning out the customer experience team, even if it's you who's the only one who's on that customer experience team. Always best to build out the processes and the best practices now. And then when you bring in somebody, it'll be a smoother transition and they'll be able to take what you've created and then make it better. So what is the main thing that a customer experience individual or a customer experience team is responsible for? It's very simple. One word: retention. And if you have a business that is primarily built on monthly recurring revenue, like mine is, retention is unbelievably important. There's a formula that you can use basically to determine what your clients are worth. And I'll give it to you just very quickly. I have some other webinars and things where I've talked about this more extensively, but basically just to calculate what your client's value is, your customer lifetime value, you need to know your churn rate and you need to know your average revenue per unit. So you essentially take the number one, you divide it by your churn rate as a percentage, as a decimal. So if your churn rate is 0.1, you're basically going to take the number one, you're going to divide by 0.1. That's going to give you your the number of months that a client stays with you. So 1 divided by 0.1 is 10. That means that your client stays with you for 10 months. Then you're going to take your average revenue per unit, which is the average of what your monthly retainer clients are paying you. So let's say it's $1,000. So 10 times 1,000, your client is worth $10,000 in revenue. If you know your net income percentage, then basically you can take a percentage of that 10,000, and that's what you guys will net profit on that particular client. Now you can also take that number and then figure out how much you're willing to invest to get that client, so on and so forth. So with the churn rate though, to me, that's the most important thing, because you will see a massive change in customer lifetime value and net income based on 1 percentage point difference in churn. It's huge. 5 percentage points difference in churn, could potentially double the value of your client. If you can get your churn from 10% down to 5%, you've ultimately doubled your lifetime customer value on that customer, which is fantastic. Who wouldn't want more value out of their customers? It means you have to sell less, and it means that you can invest more in keeping those clients happy. I don't necessarily think that for most of us, we want a business where we have 1 million customers. I'd rather have 100 customers that pay me a lot of money and that are very profitable and that allow me to have the lifestyle that I want, than having 1 million crappy clients. It's just not worth it. I've had an agency that has hundreds of clients. It was very, very difficult. So with that being said, your customer experience team's main focus is retention, getting clients to stay with you. So your customer experience team is going to be talking and communicating with your clients all the time. And we actually start that relationship at Dude from the onboarding. So as soon as the new client is signed up and they pay, the CX team is actually the ones that are onboarding the clients, and they've implemented a lot of really cool things. So they actually have it's essentially like an expectations document. So what you can expect from us and what we expect from the client. And I believe that they send it over to the client and they initial it so that they understand kind of the rules. And also if there's clients that aren't abiding by the rules, then sometimes we'll cancel that client because we know that's just going to lead to a cancellation anyway. So we'll just be like, you know what, we're not a good fit. So that's something that CX does from the outset, is they're just like, hey, we're here to serve you, make sure that you're getting everything that you wanted from us, and we're going to help manage that relationship and hopefully keep you for a customer for years and years and years. So that's the first thing that they're doing is they're talking to the customers all the time. Now, the other thing that they're doing is they're creating reports. So Erin, who's the head of our customer experience team, she's got all these reports that she's created. I kind of started them, and then she just took them and made them so much better. So obviously in that report that we're getting and that I review every single week. So every single week we have a leadership team meeting. And then we also have a day where they're sending me another report that I'll talk about in a second. But we're talking about the churn. So one, what is the churn that we've experienced already in the month? And what is the churn that we're expecting for the month? So they have a list that we call our red zone. And every agency, every business has a red zone. The red zone consists of customers that are, they might not have had a great experience with you. Sometimes you just don't vibe well with the clients. So even though you did your evaluation process, you thought it could work out, somehow they snuck in and it's just not working. You don't really like them. They don't really like you. You're kind of just stuck together for a little while. Those people go on the red zone list. If there's people that have had trouble paying, those go on the red zone list. And then the fourth category would be new customers. So whether you like it or not, all your customers have buyer's remorse. So it's very important that you put all your new customers on that red zone. I say for at least 60 days, because you want to extra special attention to them to ensure that they have a great experience at the onset of the relationship. So we have tons of steps that we take to make sure that the customers are happy. But those are the four, ones that I would say is on everybody's red zone list. Now, last year, when we came up with this concept of the red zone, we were kind of in a crisis. So like most of you guys, we lost a bunch of clients when COVID hit. It was like 18% of our revenue gone overnight. I had just bought out a partner too. So we didn't have like any money left in the bank account, the company account, and like 30 employees. I had just taken over the business full time or just me. And so then COVID hits and we lose 18% of our revenue. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, luckily I had the right mindset. I was able to figure this out and see my way to the solution. But we had to make a really hard decision. So we had to say, okay, who are the customers that are in danger of canceling in April? Right? Because we lost all these clients in March. What does the business need to look like from an expenses standpoint if all of these people on our red zone canceled? How are we going to survive? And then we made the cuts and we started cutting out expenses and negotiating with our vendors and doing everything that we needed to do in March so that in April, if the worst case scenario happened, we were still going to survive. So that was the true motivation for us to create that red zone. Now, luckily, none of those clients ended up canceling in April, which is fantastic. And we actually got a bunch more business that came back. And so it was fantastic. But we still maintained that red zone list. So every single week, we're talking about that red zone. That really helps us to plan. That helps me to plan from a CEO standpoint. It helps the financial department, obviously the finance department, to determine what are the expenses that we need to prepare to cut in the event that something bad happens. So we're always prepared, or as best as we possibly can, so that we can, if these clients leave, we know what to do. So that's a responsibility that the CX team has, is building out that red zone list and then reporting that to the rest of the team. The next thing that the CX team has done a very good job of is identifying what are the things that the clients love versus what are the things that drive them to cancel with you as a client. I think it's different for everybody. So for us, we know that if a client's going to cancel, they're typically going to cancel for one of these three reasons or a combination of the three. So one is the turnaround times. So they feel like the turnaround times are too slow. So we are very, very focused on getting those turnaround times done correctly. Second, the QA. So if they don't feel like we're doing a good job on the QA, then they typically will cancel. And the third is just overall communication, where they don't feel like they know where their projects are at. All of our clients, and most likely all of your clients, have some level of anxiety when you start out in the business relationship with them. So we have processes in place to do what? To manage those three things. Turnaround times. We make sure that we're hitting those turnaround times. Turnaround times and deadlines, I should say. Make sure that we're hitting those turnaround times and that we're hitting the deadlines. 2, make sure that we're heading the QA and everything's being QA'd very, very well. And the third one is communication. We over communicate like crazy, especially at the beginning. Like in the first 2 months of working with Dude, you will hear from your team leader every single day. It's not a call, but like it's through our portal or on Slack or something like that. You're talking to them every single day. So you always know that somebody's looking out for your projects and for your best interest. Those are the 3 actions that we take to ensure that we don't lose clients. And because we know factually, these are the 3 reasons why our clients are going to cancel. Now, for you guys, that's part of your job or your CX team, is to identify the things that clients love and also identify the things that make them cancel. It's not going to be a huge list. I'm telling you. Like looking at it from when you're starting this process, you might be like, oh my God, this person there canceled for this and this person something else. Da, 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 da. When you actually dig into the data and you see what happened, you will notice that there's anywhere between 1 and 3 things. So all you got to do is just focus on fixing those 3 things, or I should say your CX team has to focus on fixing and managing those 3 things. So that's one thing very, very important that you have your CX team do. So they'll be able to find the patterns as to why people are canceling. And then you can have the CX team create a spreadsheet, a report, or something that monitors those 3 things. So for us, I get a report every Tuesday, and it basically shows each client, each team, and we have scores associated. So the CX team created a score of 1 to 10, I think it's 1 to 10, for turnaround times, for communication, for deadlines, for QA. And so they're giving me that report so I can see the average across all the teams. And then I can look at every single team, and then I can click down and I can see per client, like how are they doing on each individual client. So it's like very granular team and then the entire company. And if it's below a certain metric, which we've already established, I think it's like anything less than 90% is bad. So like 9 out of 10 and above is good. Anything less than 9 out of 10 is unacceptable. So anybody who might be below that, I can go in and actually see what's going on. And then the team can figure out a way to get those clients where they need to be. So cancellations in general, like when people are canceling, it's what we call a lagging metric, right? So it's not an indicator of something that just happened. It's an indicator of an accumulations of things that happened way in the past that led up to this event. So when you identify those patterns, you can start to monitor those lagging metrics before they become cancellations. That's why we have all these processes in place when a client signs up, the weekly calls, the daily status updates, the weekly check-ins from the CX team. We do the process mapping that we do with our clients now. Like all of these are basically were created to ensure that we're managing these metrics that will lead to cancellations. So with that being said, like what works for us might work for you guys, but most likely there's going to be some other little nuances that you guys need to manage. So as much as I would love to give you a blueprint on, hey, you do this and you're going to have that, you do X and you're going to have Y, it just doesn't really work like that. It's another reason why I'm not a huge fan of gurus, because they always preach that they have the fucking blueprint of how you're going to make $1 million. That's fucking bullshit. Nobody has the blueprint. All of you guys are a little bit different. All of you guys have nuances. So basically take the framework that I've given you for your CX team and look to identify what are those unique metrics that are going to lead to a cancellation. And then your CX team will manage that from start to finish, and they'll be able to improve that process over time. So ultimately, at the end of the day, there are specific inputs that are happening in your business that are leading to cancellations. For me, it's deadlines and turnaround times, it's QA, and it's communication. So those are the three things that we basically monitor like crazy. A dashboard. Okay, so let's talk about this dashboard that I get every single week. So as a CEO, it would be, I don't want to say impossible, but it would be really challenging for me to go in and look at every single client and every single ticket and everything like on a weekly basis. Like it would take me a week just to look at all that information because there's so much stuff going on. So what we've done is we've had our leadership team essentially create dashboards. So this is almost like, you might call it a flash report, but this is basically a very quick snapshot of what's going on in the business. So I have my finance team, they create their dashboard. I have the HR team, they have their dashboard. I have the operations team, they have their dashboard. And I have the CX team and they have their dashboard. So what is on the CX dashboard? It's mainly the things that we talked about. So the first thing is their red zone, right? So they're always aware of who could cancel. There should never be a client cancellation that we didn't anticipate. How do we anticipate the cancellations? We look at the metrics that we know that lead to cancellations. So there's a couple other that we look at that are kind of like specific to our business. So with new customers, we know that they have to be submitting and getting completed a certain number of projects per month. We've looked at the data and we know that if they're, doing, I'm just going to say 1 project a month, then that's bad. So we want to see them getting done, 10 to 12 projects in the first month, and then maybe like 12 to 14 in the second month. We track that. And so that if the numbers show that they're not hitting the metrics that we want to see, then we'll add that person to our red zone. But it's not just the volume of tickets, it's also the amount of time that it takes to complete those projects. So if we notice that they maybe got 4 projects done, but it took them like 200 hours to complete those 4 projects, we know that there's probably some sort of communication gap, or maybe the client is just very inefficient or they don't have good processes. So we will proactively go out to that customer and say, hey, we noticed X, Y, and Z. Can we do a call and help you fix some of these issues that we see? And then we'll talk through it with them, help them fine tune the process. Maybe they go to do our process mapping call, and we'll help them to become more efficient and streamlined. That helps them. That helps us. And obviously we maintain that customer for a very long time after we do that. So those are some other things that go on our dashboard in addition to turnaround times and deadlines and QA and the communication stuff. What you need to do is, if these things work for you, then just take what I've just mentioned and add it to your own dashboard. If there are some other things that after looking at the data, for certain from a factual database standpoint that these things lead to cancellations, then you're going to want to add those data points to your dashboard. So you as the owner can then look at that dashboard and see with certainty that, okay, yes, we are expecting these cancellations this month. And then maybe you have to adjust your sales targets to actually make sure that you hit the growth or whatever. But it's got to be fact-based. You can have gut instincts, but you got to dive into the data and actually make sure that these hunches are valid. Easiest way, like if you don't have tons of time tracking and data and tickets and everything like we do, just talk to the old customers that canceled. Do an exit survey, or you can just take them out to lunch or whatever. You want to get that information just so that you have the data so you can prevent clients from canceling for the same reasons in the future. Now, I will say that if it's a client that you canceled or that canceled and sucked, basically look at the reasons why they canceled and then say like, these are the red flags for a customer who's a pain in the fucking ass, and then avoid that person like the plague. So whatever that could be, just put that on your list and be like, okay, yeah, this clearly is not somebody who we want to work with. All right, cool. Next thing that CX does, and that something that you can help gauge their success, is you're going to have them map out the customer journey. And this is actually a very fun exercise. So with mapping out the customer journey, essentially what you're doing is just like on a spreadsheet. Usually you're saying day 1, this happens, day 2, this happens, day 3, and you map out the entire year, at least 1 year of your client and the journey that they're going to go when they work with you. So it makes it really, really simple. You can integrate this with any project management system too, so that it sends up triggers and assigns stuff to people on their calendar of things to do. So we, have a checklist for the first 60 days. We have, things that we send out to the clients at certain benchmarks. We give them like congratulations for hitting certain, number of tickets or whatever. There's all kinds of things that are being sent out to the client. You obviously want to make sure that that's getting done. So you can create a report or something that shows that, hey, all these things got done for the clients, but also you can check and see, are these things actually moving the needle? Yes, we're investing in a better customer experience, and this customer journey is part of that. But is that actually improving the retention? Are clients staying on longer? Another cool thing that you could do is you can say, it seems like our clients, or like the data shows that our clients are typically starting to fall off around month 8, right? And then you can adjust the customer journey so that you create more engagement and then ideally get that customer to stay with you way beyond month 8. So maybe in month 6, you need to create a new onboarding or introduce something else that they can do with you, or do something that is going to help that client to stay beyond month 8. You can also talk to your customers, figure out what they were experiencing that caused them all to leave around month 8. And then you can reverse engineer how to get them to stay. Next thing that customer experience can do is case studies and referrals. So testimonials, essentially. I like to use the word case studies in as opposed to testimonials, because I feel like when you ask your clients for a case study or to be a part of a case study, they'll say yes. Whereas if you say, hey, can I get a testimonial from you? They're gonna be like, oh man, like I'm gonna have to write something and it's gonna be a pain in the butt. And then they end up not doing it. So your CX team can build that into the customer journey, that at day 90, for example, or day 120, they're going to reach out to that customer, assuming that they're getting great results and that they're happy, and ask them for a case study. Also, they can ask for a referral. And that's how you can basically include your CX in helping you generate more customers on the marketing side. Really, really cool thing to do. It's all automated, so you, the CEO, don't really have to do anything. You just make sure that your CX team has that built into their customer journey. Now, lastly, before I let you guys go, is that this is constantly growing and evolving and changing. So you're always going to want to test it. You're always going to want to try and improve it. So, basically don't go into this thinking that everything is going to be built in stone, and make sure that your CX team understands that you want them to test and prod and see if there's ways that we can improve the experience. And just know that the environment too, like the industries change, things happen in the world. You're going to have to make adjustments to the process. So just have this lifelong kind of like learning and improving culture in the CX team. And the best part of all of this is that you can very easily incentivize your CX team based on retention goals. So if you say, hey, if you guys keep the retention under this number, you're going to get this bonus. If you keep the retention number under this number, you're going to get this bonus. So it's super easy for you to incentivize the team using retention as that benchmark for incentives. So guys, I've given you a ton of information today. Hopefully you took lots of notes. If you have other questions, of course, you can reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. And maybe I can even introduce you to Erin, and she might be able to walk you through any challenges that you might be having with your CX team. So have a wonderful day. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you could share it with your friends, family, and basically anyone who will find the same value in this episode that you did. And to get the latest from me, then let's definitely connect on social media. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/Dude Agency, or Instagram @dudeagency.io, or you can check us out on YouTube on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can always visit our website at dudeagency.io, where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. You can also register for any live trainings that we have going on how to run a highly profitable agency. And of course, you can see how we help digital agencies with the people, the processes, and the education so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.